Good afternoon, y'all. Welcome to episode 3 of the Rams Coast podcast, where we strive to bring you the best Rams news, rumors, reactions, and analysis. This is your host, Rahim. You can find me on Twitter at WTRRah. The WTR is capitalized. You can follow me. You can follow this podcast Twitter page at Rams_Coast. I'm gonna get right into it today, man. We have this is the most boring time of the year, man. There's not really much going on right before training camp, which before the Rams starts on July 23rd. They are opening up to the public on July 30th. I definitely plan on getting down to UC Irvine for a couple of days at least to check out the team, see how everything is looking. Let me know in the comment section. Again, you can always hit me up on Twitter. Let me know if you guys are making it down there. Maybe we can meet up, share a beer, whatever. We're gonna, like I said, we're gonna get right into it today, man. I'm looking at this roster as we are trying to win our second consecutive championship, our third for the franchise. I am looking at our roster, and I look at this roster. I say this may be a team that's good enough to win another Super Bowl. But here in LA, here with the Rams, I think we've proven that we don't settle. We don't say this is good enough. We don't say, oh well, this is the best that we can put out there. We always strive to push in every aspect. Just go look up what this team is doing. Whether it's whether it's just the way that we draft, whether it's the way that we acquire talent, whether it's the way our training staff operates and how we try to keep our players safe and healthy. We're always looking to push the envelope. We're always looking to to be on the cutting edge. And I believe that we're not done with that. With this roster, like I said, it's good enough to win, maybe, but I don't believe that we're gonna settle. I look at our roster and I look at some other players out there and I see some things and I see some ways to improve. One of those players the one that I'm going to talk about today is defensive end Montez Sweat from the Washington Commanders. This was actually a guy that the Rams were interested in when he was coming out of college. Unfortunately, we didn't have the pick. Unfortunately, he wasn't on the board when we had the pick when we wanted to take him. Things happened that way, but we had something like that happen with Bobby Wagner. And now we have another chance to come back on the back end and get a guy that we were looking at in the draft, but we're going to get him much earlier. Hypothetically, we'd get him much earlier in his career. Montez Sweat has missed some time. He missed a little bit of time last year, but he's a very effective player in 42 career games. He has 21 sacks, 23 tackles for loss, 7 forced fumbles. We all know about his physical profile: 6'6", 260 pounds. He ran that 4.4 at the combine. If you've seen him play, you know about his physicality, you know about his motor, you know all about that athleticism. And I see a player like that, and I salivate. Losing Von Miller does leave a little bit of a hole in our defense, even though at the time that we got him, the injuries were the biggest part. We were a very effective pass rush, but he did open up some things, especially at the end of games. He ended the Baltimore Ravens games. He was a constant pressure in quarterback's face down the stretch in fourth quarters this season. He was also a very good run defender. People don't know that. It's not a very sexy part of Von Miller's game, but he does very well in that aspect. And you couldn't really, a lot of teams, you see Aaron Donald, you see how great he is. One of the things they try to do is they try to run away from him. You couldn't really do that this year with the Rams. You got Leonard Floyd on one side, you got Von Miller on the other. Trying to pick a side you run away to, it made it really difficult last year. We're not going to have that. The guys that are going to be replacing Von Miller are the guys that were here when we got him. A couple of those guys were pretty effective. In the short period that they were able to show what they can do. We got 6 sacks combined out of Justin Hollins and Terrell Lewis, respectively. Terrell Lewis had a sack in 3 consecutive games before he was out, and Justin Hollins had a 2-sack game against the Buccaneers in the regular season. So, like I said, good enough. It's these guys, and we also have Chris Garrett, who's going to return. We drafted Daniel Hardy out of Montana State, who I really like him, and I think he can be effective. I think the bulk of his contributions this year will be on special teams, but I do believe that he'll see a snap here and there. He'll see some time, and I believe that he can be effective. Again, this is a good enough group. I'm not 100%. I'm not 100% confident in it. I would like to see some improvement. I would like to see, I would like us to have Von Miller. Fortunately, we don't. We can't have that. So I'm looking at Montez Sweat as, for us, the next best thing. And I talked to some Washington Commanders fans, and when I talked to them, based off their reactions by me even asking about this hypothetical move. He's a very well liked player in Washington. He's a very effective player. I don't know. Like I said, if you've seen put on the tape of him, you can watch him. He does great. He does great when he's out there on the field. So why would Washington? Why would they want to move off such a player? And I'll get into that. We all know that the NFL is a salary cap league. Every team can only spend a certain amount of money unless you're the Los Angeles Rams. But every other team, they have a cap on what they can do. How many teams that they, what players they can play, how much we can pay them. We just really do what we want to do. I'm just playing. But the NFL is a salary cap league, man, and there are cap casualties for teams every year. As Rams fans, we've experienced them time and time again. These are players who you may love. These may be, some of them at times are some of the top players at their positions. We just saw this with the Chiefs and Tyreek Hill, and they had to move off of him, even though a lot of people consider him the most dangerous wide receiver in the league. But that just goes to show you, in a day and age where you really, excuse me, where you really have to be frugal and you really have to be strategic with how you spend your money. We see how some players who are, even though they're really good, their teams decide to move on from them, and it's just it really doesn't have much to say about about them or their injury history or anything like that. It's just that wherever they were on their team's priority list just was not high enough. And I look at Washington's line, and I'm wondering where Montez Sweat falls. And I just I'm sure if there are people out there who know much more about the game than me. If you're a Washington fan, you're probably like, yeah, he's really important for us. But I look at that defensive line over there. They just they signed Jonathan Allen to a 4-year, $72 million extension not too long ago. The Chase Young deal, he's gonna come up. A lot of people think that he is a they put him in that generational category. I really don't like to use that word, but I definitely think that he could be one of the next great pass rushers in this league, one of the next great defensive players, and you can go ahead and count me in with those people that think his deal is going to be, I don't know about record breaking, but market setting. They also have their 2018 first round pick defensive lineman Aaron Payne, who they have to figure out what to do. So I'm looking at that defensive line, and then they've got some other pieces. They just paid Terry McLaurin. They just gave him a whole boatload of money. I can't remember what his contract was, but shout out to him. Congratulations to him on getting paid. I really think he deserves that. That was definitely a player that I was looking at, even as close as last year's for the Rams to get. Really proud of him. Wishing the best for him and his family. Plus, so we're seeing, you're seeing how, money has to be thrown around, and you look at Washington and you say, maybe is Montez Sweat that player that they decide and say, ooh, we really like him, but we can't afford to pay him, or we may not want to pay him as much as he wants to be paid. And, again, this is hypothetical. I'm not saying that Washington feels this way, but if they were to feel that way, I believe we moved a second and a third for Von Miller last year. I'm not 100% sure if Montez is worth that, but if the price range is somewhere around there, if it's not too crazy, this was a move that I would love. I would definitely be excited for. I would love to see Montez Sweat in blue and yellow. We'll see how this shakes out. We'll see how things happen. Again, this is a hypothetical. I don't have any sources. Don't think that this is something I'm saying that is going to happen. Like I said, this is the time of year for these kinds of for videos like this, these hypotheticals, these crazies that may never happen. But occasionally, sometimes these things do, and I want to be out ahead of it. And if something like this does happen, I want to be able to be like, see, hey, I was talking about that a little bit earlier. I always leave the comment section open for you guys. You can, talk about, whether you agree or disagree, or maybe another player that you've had your eye on or anything like that. You can always get at me on Twitter. You can DM me, at me, whatever. When I'm available, I'll get back to you. But that's really all that we have for today, man. Like I said, training camp opens July 23rd, opens to the public on July 30th. I hope I see you all there. For those that I do, I'm looking forward to it. To those who I won't, hopefully I'll see you at a game this year. We got that banger of season opener against the Buffalo Bills. So excited for that one. But until then, I'm hoping that all you guys' family are blessed. And until next time, stay up, yeah.